Good evening, everybody. This is Morbid. You're listening to the Pulpit of Doom podcast, and with me tonight, I have Jaded, Old Man Metal, and Pagan.
Hello.
What's up?
How y'all doing?
And all your mics are working tonight.
So far.
Well, I mean, if you guys would get them worked on, we wouldn't have the problems like we had last week. Jesus Christ, man.
Doing the best I can with what I got to do with.
Well, good evening, whoever showed up. Everybody that's in chat. I don't have it up right here at the moment, but and anybody in the Discord server, if you'd like to call in and chit chat at any point during the show, join the Discord server. You can get the link on the hell, I don't know where we've got it posted. Oh, it's actually on the front page in the banner. And just join the green room, and we'll bring you in if you want to talk. If you're turning in for the first time, this is the official podcast of DreaminDemon.com, where normally we will talk about the latest horrible stories we've reported on over the last week. And we barely made it this week, but we did. So I appreciate that too, Metal, for getting those in, and had old Jaded crawl out of the grave and type up a story.
Don't call me old. We just had this discussion.
Well, we got a lot of stories this week. We ran the gambit of categories, which was actually refreshing. I mean, that sounds a little bit macabre, but you know, aside from your standard child killings, we actually got some bestiality and some necrophilia. We got all kinds of stuff thrown in this week.
We got some inmate fucking.
Inmate fucking. A lot of stuff. So we'll go ahead and get started with them. Hold on, let me drink some more of this nasty, delicious drink.
This fine beverage.
Every time I drink it, did you guys ever watch Kids in the Hall?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, they had that skit, Girl Drink Drunk. It was a guy that was an alcoholic, but he was hooked on girl drinks. So when he was a wino later in the like later when he's like a complete homeless wino, his drinks aren't like, he can't just drink it out of the bottle. He has to have like a little funky glass and put a twisty straw in it and an umbrella and shit in it because it has to be like a girl drink. That's
So
Right. Oh, yeah. I remember that. I know what you're talking about now.
That's exactly what this is that I'm drinking, but it's in a red Solo cup. But I don't know.
Get a fucking umbrella.
It deserves one. It's like an orange liqueur of some type. Let's see here. We've got. We'll go with our 10th one. Oh, that's mine. This is one out of Texas. We'll just go with Texas.
El Paso.
Yeah, thank you. I was turning into Foghorn Leghorn there.
I say El Paso.
Yes.
I love the dog's pick.
No, you
Love the dog's pick.
Yeah.
He looked like the veterinarian just stuck his finger up his ass.
Yeah,
Check
somebody
his oil.
mute Jaded for me, or I'm not going to be able to fucking talk. Okay.
I'm done.
Now I'm fucking going. All right, here we go. Not.
That poor dog. All we can do is laugh.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Not a lot of info on this one in regards to identities because the suspects are minors. You asshole! They don't give an age on these kids. Hey, Pagan, I tell you what.
Yes.
You haven't had one in a while. Could you read this one for me and give the gist of it?
Sure. So, police in El Paso are looking into a video posted to Snapchat that allegedly showed two juveniles sexually abusing a small dog. So, from what we found out, K Fox 14 was sent a Snapchat video of a small white dog being sexually abused by two juveniles. And they took it to the police. Of course. Not surprised. Though they have not shown the video on air or online, state the video was horrific and too damn disturbing. As you can see by the face of the dog, the video will probably be self-explanatory.
That poor bastard.
That poor bastard. So, El Paso police have since confirmed a bestiality case is now under investigation in relation to the video that they say was filmed on July 28th.
Yeah.
Which is too bad for the juveniles involved, because prior to September 1st of 2017, it was not illegal to have sex with animals in Texas.
Damn.
Wow.
Right. Their logic was with sex crimes with animals, it was hard for them to determine if the animal was injured at all, and they usually aren't showing signs of injury after, so they didn't look at it as an animal cruelty or a crime that could be prosecuted. So I guess finally they caught up with the times last year. So anyway, what I did find surprising, though, was that these kids, I guess this is the same everywhere, but whether you're a juvenile or an adult, you get charged with the same crime. Of course, you don't get a lesser crime because you're a juvenile, but it's tried in a completely different court, juvenile court. But just like if you're an adult getting caught fucking a dog or something in Texas, even if you're a kid and you get caught doing it, even though your punishment may not be exactly the same according to the charges, you could still have to register as a sex offender, which I thought was interesting.
Very.
But I'm real curious. They said they wouldn't post the video, so if they actually didn't do it, then it's probably not out there. But I'm kind of curious, what exactly were the kids doing to the dog to the point that they felt comfortable enough doing it in front of each other, but then posting it on Snapchat? So what I'm curious about, are we talking about, like, dog fucking the way we think about it when we type up these stories, when that's actually what it involves? Or were they doing something completely different that can be construed or legally be considered sexual? Like if you're fucking with a dog's genitals, that's what I was getting at. I wonder if it was something like that, or maybe sticking a stick in its ass or something like that.
It could have been that Red Rocket shit from South Park.
That's very true. But
hell, they could have been doing what they did on South Park.
they very well could have. Although I don't know why they would put that on Snapchat, though. But I guess who knows nowadays. But
would anyone put anything on Snapchat?
Well, that's true too. But I bet you, if it ever comes out, I bet you it's going to end up being they were sticking something in that dog's ass. That would be my guess. That would be the only thing I could see two juveniles thinking's fucking hilarious, and then sticking it on Snapchat. But I couldn't see somebody going, "Hey, everybody, hey, all my followers, watch this. I'm going to suck this dog's dick."
Right.
And not put it on Snapchat. I just made that fucking noise and, like, licked my actual microphone.
Ugh.
What the fuck, dude?
You get sick doing that, man. Yeah,
I know. Don't get me fucking started. I can already hear her. God almighty. The next story was out of Ohio. This was the corrections officer that was having some fun time with one of her inmates.
Yeah, her name was Michelle Lynn Kiefer Erb. She has the hyphenated last name, Kiefer Erb, E-R-B. I don't know. I would have gotten probably the both of them, but whatever. Kiefer Erb. She was a corrections officer at the Washington County Jail in Ohio. And like so many featured guests on this site, she was absolutely in love. And unfortunately, her beloved was an inmate that she was supposed to be guarding. And she was guarding him, I guess, after a manner of speaking. She figured out a way to get some alone time with him, a really brilliant way. These people are usually pretty smart. It's amazing they ever get caught because their plans are so brilliant. She just went and got him and took him to the medical office. And then when she was done with him, she took him back to his pod and got away with it 3 times. The first time was a 14-minute visit on August 1st. And then the next day, they had a doubleheader, 20 minutes, and then 30 minutes later on that day. The 4th time, about a week later, they got caught. And he got escorted back to his pod, and she got a bunch of questions. They asked what was going on. She said she was just stretching his shoulder. Well, why did it take so long? She said, well, I don't know. Why didn't you document any of these treatments? Well, I was too busy to document them. So there's an investigation, of course, and it turns up phone sex, expressions of love, post-release marriage plans, other things like that, and all of which would have been fine if she hadn't banged him. But like all the other forbidden fruit lusters on this site, she just couldn't wait. She had to have it now, like that old 2 Live Crew song, Dick Almighty. And so she's bonded out now for $25K cash. She got 4 felony sexual battery charges, and she's now under house arrest at Mom's, where she has a bunch of explaining to do. So just another person who fucked someone they shouldn't have fucked and is going to get locked up for it.
They said she got caught. Go ahead.
You go.
No, I was just going to say, they said she got caught because it was text messages or recorded phone conversations or something to that effect, where the inmate, whoever the guy was asking her what they would do if he got out, if he was able to escape, and she was making comments back like they would have to live on the run or something, and that's what kind of turned the eyes on her.
Well, that'll get you caught too.
Yep.
If I was going to lose my job over your ass, should go in more than 30 minutes.
You better perform, baby.
You better perform good, too, because, no. Even if it is a minimum wage job.
You remember that story? It was always on all those crime shows, different types of reenactment type crime shows. And it was that warden's wife that was allegedly or supposedly kidnapped by the inmate that had escaped from the prison, and they went on the run. And she was supposedly his hostage, but there's always been a big question on whether or not that she was actually a willing participant. But I think she's always maintained that she was his hostage. Did you ever remember that one? It was like real famous.
I know.
I was just curious if anybody ever...
Oh, I thought you had a point.
No, this just reminded me of it. I'll never get it.
I think of that case where the female guard busted out those couple of guys.
Oh yeah, that was just recently.
You were murderers. That's the one that always comes to mind when I think of that.
Yeah, they played her pretty good. I don't get it. Well, but I guess people are willing to risk it, though. I mean, look at the teachers. They're willing to have sex with the students without really any. At least,
well, that's just it. It's just a whole bunch of people with really poor impulse control.
Yeah,
for sure.
Let's see here. This one's out of Missouri.
Yeah, this one is fucked.
Yeah, we get so many of these. Just like
a lot of Missouri stuff. A lot of stories from Missouri.
I wonder why.
Missouri.
It could be Idaho. That one was. I saw a couple from them.
Right. Missouri, Idaho, same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. You know what I think of when I think of that? Like, and no offense to anybody who's listening in any of those states, but whenever I think of like Idaho, I know absolutely nothing about it. I know nothing about it except potatoes. That's it. Which is probably ignorance on my part for not even knowing anything about the states in the country that I live in, but I know nothing.
I know the shape of the state.
The first thing that comes to my mind is Aryan and preppers and dirt.
I think of like Children of the Corn type shit.
Well, those all go hand in hand with potatoes, though. So
that is true. But I know, like, people on the West Coast, they think of us, like, over here on the, especially in the South, not...
preppers and peanuts and white supremacists and Aryans.
Well, Pagan, he actually lived overseas for a bit, and I remember back in the day, he was telling me that the school he went to was a school that had people from all over the place would go to the school, so you had a bunch of different people. But a lot of the people from the United States that he met, they like thought that we went to school like in horse and carriage and shit.
Barefoot.
Isn't that what you said? That guy said that he was being serious.
Yeah, that was some guy from Brooklyn, and he was saying, I think he was being more of a joking around, but throwing a little punch there though at the same time, And he said, "What do you got to fight bears and shit when you go to school?" Thinking about like the Beverly Hillbillies. I don't know.
And what's so funny about that is
Beverly Hills.
The Southerners can actually be even a little bit more stereotypical when they're thinking of further Southerners. Like, somebody from North Carolina thinks about people from Louisiana the way somebody from Portland, Oregon thinks of people of North Carolina. I mean, you want to see Southern? I can show you much worse Southern than North Carolina.
Oh shit! I grew up age 5 to 13 in Alabama.
There you go. There's a perfect example.
That's about as Southern as it Yes.
That was a butt-ass ignorant state back in the 70s. I don't know how it is now, but...
I was just going to make it real easy and say South Carolina.
Well...
Love you, South Carolina. Love you.
Not a big fan of the state. Mainly, I grew a hatred of South Carolina was primarily because of their...
probably dealing with the cops.
Well, that, but, you know, you actually go into their state to deal with that shit. But I hated when they would come to my state and to work, and then I had to get stuck driving with them. And they were notoriously horrendous in city traffic. And but now, I wish they'd come back if they're not already amongst us already, because everybody just drives like fucking idiots now. Everybody. I'm the only sane person on the fucking road.
Except you.
Hey, this is no shit. I had my first road rage incident the other morning, and
my ass.
No, not from me, from another person towards me. And to make it very quick and simple, and everybody's done this before, I'm cruising down a 2-lane road, double yellow line, and I get behind this fucking jackass who's using his phone, and I could tell because I can see it, you know, lit up, and he's talking on it. So he keeps slowing down, and then he'd speed up a little bit and slow down and speed up a little bit. Whatever, I was already aggravated. But there was not much I can do about it at that point in time, so I was just chilling to the radio, keeping my blood pressure down, and fucking going. And but we get to this main intersection that if you miss the intersection, you could tack on like 5 or extra minutes to your drive time. And so most people like to make this fucking intersection. Well, the way this jackass was driving, it wasn't going to happen. So when he slowed down about 10 miles per hour under the speed limit, I wasn't aggressive about it. I wasn't anything. I just didn't put on my brakes. So instead of course, plowing into his ass in, I just went around him on the double yellow. And as soon as I got beside him, this jackass does exactly what you expect he does. He steps on the gas. He's not going to let me over. He's not going to let me back into the lane, which puts me in a fucking turning lane or on the opposite side of the road. So he was in a car much faster than my truck, so I wasn't going to beat him. But luckily, another jackass just like him pulled out in front of us in a gas station. So since I was already he had to stop because I was already in the wrong fucking lane. So I went and just passed both of them. And I got through the intersection. They did too, but it was just, got down the intersection. I didn't think nothing else about this motherfucker. I was had my radio on, just chilling on my way to work. And about 2 miles down the road, I just noticed in the rearview mirror headlights weaving and back and forth in my rear view. And I looked up, and this jackass has been trying, I guess, to get to me ever since. And he weaves and does all kinds of jackass moves and gets right up behind me so close I can't see him in my rear view or my side views. He's on my ass. But whatever. I don't give a shit. As long as you don't make me put on my brakes, I don't give a shit. So he then realizes I'm not really caring too much about what he's doing. So he swings around and gets in front of me. And he tries to do a rolling roadblock with a car on the other lane. So I'm kind of stuck between the two of them. But again, I don't give a fuck because we're doing 45 miles an hour, and that's all I really cared about doing anyway. It's like a 25 or 30 mile per hour zone. And then he starts doing the brake checking. All this shit because he was using the fucking phone, and I decided to go around him. So anyway, that was my road rage story. I ended up having to turn off on the side road and go in the back way because I didn't want to fuck with him if I got up to an intersection.
Sounds like that jackass from Durham a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, it's like, I don't know if he's armed. I'm armed, and that's not like me trying to be a badass, just meaning I just want to get to work. The last thing I want to be doing in early morning on the way to work is just now you're involved in some type of altercation like that over that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just felt it was best just to vamoose out of there. Cool. Oh, and back to, what brought us on that? Oh, Idaho. Shitty Idaho.
Well, Missouri,
that's right. Columbia, Missouri. This is one of those types of couples. They were pimping out their teenage daughter. I think the only added spice to this one. It wasn't just and I say normal, but you'll see what I'm saying. But it wasn't just your run-of-the-mill teenager. This was a 14-year-old girl that had a host of different disabilities. What did she have? It said she had the mental capacity of a 2 or 3-year-old, suffered from cerebral palsy, autism, and deafness. That's a pretty fucked up 14-year-old, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They were using her to let men have sex with her in a hotel room in exchange for money and drugs, specifically cocaine. Oh, goddamn, that orange shit's coming right back up. Don't get this. The heartburn is real. It is real with this. Anyway, they got caught because somebody had noticed that this girl was being left in these hotel rooms for long periods of time, and they called police. Police got involved and investigated. The girl, who has the mental capacity of a 2 or 3-year-old, was able to tell them that, yeah, she's been raped by strangers and by her mother's boyfriend, and that after they got done having sex with her, sometimes they would inject her with medicine.
Bet they did.
Yeah. So they weren't arrested when I wrote this. They may be now, but there was a warrant out for both of their arrests for 49-year-old Renee Collins and her boyfriend, 44-year-old William Thomas Jr. Police were looking for him. I don't know if they've got him or not.
Well, she is a mean-looking bitch, and I bet when she's coked up, she's a fucking force to be reckoned with.
They always look like this. I mean, I'm dead serious. Every time we do a story, and we got hundreds of them, where these women pimp out their daughters for it's always for money or drugs. They always look like. I've never seen one, and you get their picture, and you're like, that's different. No, it's always.
She doesn't look like she would do anything like that.
Yeah, no.
Right? You don't never say that.
Nope, never. In fact, I think the only stories that we've ever done where you would actually say that was the beginning of the onslaught of teachers that were having sex with students. Some of them were like, holy shit. I mean, she looks good as hell, but she's got to be dumb as hell to even get involved in something like this. But now that's even become boring. We need better mugshots. We need you better looking people out there committing heinous crimes so we can get much better mugshots. Remember that chick that we posted her mugshot and she sent us a message on to our email that was like she didn't want us to take the story down. She wanted us to use a better picture.
I do remember.
Yeah, and so we did. We went and changed the picture for her. I wish I remember which chick that was. She was funny.
It had something to do with fairy dust. That's popping into my head. Pixie dust or fairy dust.
Oh, that does sound familiar.
I don't. Her crime wasn't like.
Yeah, it wasn't major.
Anyways,
no.
It had, whatever the pixie dust shit was the only reason I posted the story.
I would have taken it down if she asked, but the fact that she just wanted the picture changed made it funny, so we just changed the picture instead. Let's see here. Oh yeah,
site for
this is that
pixie
lawsuit
dust
out of Washington. You probably know a hell of a lot more of what's going on with this particular lawsuit out of Washington with the Bellevue College.
Yeah, it was a lawsuit that was filed a couple of weeks ago in Bellevue, Washington, accusing Bellevue College and the state of fostering a hostile work environment for failing to protect an employee only identified as SR from a gentleman named Faisal Jaswal. And that sounds pretty boring. People get accused of that hostile work environment stuff every day. But this one, if the accusations in the lawsuit are true, it's almost like reading a fictional story. It's so malevolent, the shit that this guy did. And if the accusations are true, this guy is pretty much a textbook case of a sexual sociopath. And according to the lawsuit that's been filed, the story is pretty much SR. This individual has intellectual delays, the mental capacity of a 14-year-old. I guess that's a common theme this week, too. In 2009, she started working at the college as a receptionist in the office of the assistant dean for student programs. And this dean was this Jaswal fellow. And he started with a bunch of classic grooming behavior, presents, rides to work, dinners, sex talk, quick promotions, promoted her all the way up to his personal assistant, which of course required overnight work trips. And then the grooming turned into sexual assaults, as it always does, with threats to her job if she told anyone. He also threatened to force her into prostitution, threatened to kill her family members, all the classics, really. I mean, you know, all the things that you would expect, threats you would expect him to make. He was also into degradation and control. Apparently, he made her wear a dog collar and leash. There was unspecified punishments when she did something he didn't like. He monitored her social media and her whereabouts and stalked her, apparently going so far as to move into an apartment above hers. And by this point in time, he was raping her rather multiple times a day. So at some point in 2014 or 2015, coworkers got together. They knew a little something was going on, and they reported their concerns to university officials. And, you know, apparently nothing was done. And finally, in August of 2016, SR herself overcame her fear of Jaswal and reported what was going on. And about this time, there were several other complaints, separate complaints about the guy from different people that weren't related to this. And after SR came forward, there were at least two more. One of them apparently resulted in a Bellevue Police Department case that is still open. And last year, SR apparently applied for or successfully applied for a domestic violence prevention order against the guy. So she's already been in court and gotten a judge to believe at least some of what is being alleged in the lawsuit. So the college has declined comment on the lawsuit. Of course, they're not going to talk about it. They shouldn't. And they have made it clear, though, that Jaswal doesn't work for them anymore. And neither does the young lady, SR. The experience left her emotionally fragile and fearful of men. She has attempted suicide twice and has had to move back in with family. So whatever progress she'd made towards being independent is shot to hell, too, in addition to everything else. So, you know, if the accusations are true, this guy is a friggin' sociopath. And you know how it is. It's a lawsuit. It's accusations until it gets proven in court. But there seem to be a lot of other complaints about the guy, similar type things, too. And you see from the picture, he certainly looks pleased with himself.
He looks like a preacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really does. Actually, you know what he looks like? He looks like the preacher, the stance, at least, the preacher from the Anthrax album that I think is used for the on the site. Yeah, the Pulpit of Doom. Well, yeah, no, I'm confusing him. Another heavy metal preacher. That's not him.
No, that's him. That's the Anthrax guy.
But so yeah, another piece of garbage. But taking advantage of someone who's disabled, and you know that's even worse than abusing just the position of authority. That's the little extra thing there, I think.
Oh, thanks to Alf, I guess those two people we talked about earlier, they were arrested.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this lawsuit, these things always, I don't know. You just never know anymore.
He looks like somebody's going to sell you a timeshare. Look, he's got a look.
Or no one that already sold you a timeshare.
A used car or something.
Yeah, he's got a name tag and all.
What can I do to put you in this 95 Honda Civic today?
No money down.
Compre aqui, pague aqui.
There you go. That's the gentleman right here.
Yeah.
Bartow, Florida. Look at him. You see that picture, Pagan?
Uh-uh.
Give it a second and you'll see him. Unless you're already on the front page. This is the next one about the guy that was exchanging pornographic photos with an 11-year-old girl.
Oh yeah, he's another piece of work.
I don't even know how you even get sucked into that. Well, no pun intended, but I don't know how you get yourself in this position as a 38-year-old man. I truly just don't understand it.
Well, he was taking advantage of the situation he was in. I mean, obviously that's what this guy does. He's a fixin' man. He's 38-year-old Michael Lee Caraway, and he's a construction worker of some sort or other. He was working on a project at a Polk County residence. Unbeknownst to the homeowners, he was also working on their 11-year-old daughter. Somehow his skeevy ass got her digits and started him up a little jailbait text romance. By the time parents got wise, she had sent out over 450 naked pictures of herself and had gotten in. Yeah, that's a lot of pictures, you know. And she'd been gifted in return with about 50 pics of the vastly overpopulated Florida whitesnake, his in this case. And he also sent her some generic pornography. I'm guessing it was probably midget penis stuff to help prove how manly he was to this inexperienced young girl. At least I assume she was inexperienced. You never know these days. And there was the usual dirty talk on text too. You know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And somehow or other, he managed to, and he admitted this to police, he managed to make out with her at an undisclosed location somewhere out of Polk County, which is where she lived, and Pasco County, where he lived. So he's got a secret underage love nest somewhere in the swamps out there in Florida. So the folks eventually get wise. I'm guessing it had something to do with the fact that all of a sudden their daughter's locking herself in a room for 8 hours a day with professional photography equipment. And the net result is he gets jailed on August 13th for solicitation, directing sexual performance of a child, transmission of material harmful to a minor, and use of a two-way communications device to commit a felony. And at least 3 of those are felonies that I know of. And his bail was set at $20,000, and his days of putting caraway seed on little girls' buns are over, at least for now.
Ew, that's gross.
Yeah, I know.
Ew.
Yeah, I don't get it. Not the 11-year-old part. I mean, not that I understand how that, but I understand how it happens. You know, I just don't understand how, even if you are a pedophile, how the hell do you put yourself in that position? I mean, there was no other direction for that to go but where it went.
You think they'd know that by now?
Yeah, I think Louis C.K. made a very controversial skit about that subject on Saturday Night Live, where he was talking about pedophilia and pedophiles. You know, he's just curious. How good is it? How good is having sex with kids that these people risk losing everything to do it?
Well, it's like that show, To Catch a Predator. Whatever the hell his name was.
I think you got the name right. What do you mean?
Well, you know, I mean, he's that typical guy.
Oh, yeah.
He goes to, he you know, there's no extent he won't go to make it happen.
I wish they'd have kept that going. I get why they had to stop it, but that was comedy gold with some of those guys that they'd catch. That was fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah.
You ever get on YouTube and watch some of the YouTube compilations?
The best of. Yeah.
Those things are funny.
They're bringing flowers. They're bringing candy. They're bringing condoms.
I just like the way they act once they realize they're busted, and you can just see the wheels in their head spinning. Like, how the fuck am I getting out of this? And you know that there is no way out of it for them. But I mean, I guess that's all you can do.
And what was the host name?
What's his name? Had you not asked, I could have told you his name. What was his fucking name? I can't go any further until we get that name.
That guy. When he popped out of the fucking woodworks.
Oh, goddamn. I'm going to have to use a search engine.
And he'd say that famous line, you know. It was hilarious.
It's going to be even funnier when I figure out who his name is. Chris Hansen. God damn. I should know his.
Yeah.
I don't know
Chris Hansen. To Catch a Predator.
He's still he does something now. I think he's still doing something. I think I've seen him
on it.
What's that?
You know, he'd be like, "You ever seen To Catch a Predator?" They're like, "What? Well, you're on the show." Huh? What show?
You're gonna be on next week, jerky.
And those fuckers come out with the cameras and everything, and they bolt usually, you know, and get tackled, or they sit there and start crying and shit. They're going, "My wife."
I like some of the excuses, like, "Oh, I was just coming here to protect him, her, blah blah blah."
Oh no, my good one. My favorite is the genius level thinking this one guy thought would work was that he had pre-written a note that he left in his vehicle that explained to anybody who may catch him that he wasn't there to have sex with the girl. He was there to help her not have sex with men.
Yep.
So that was his big plan, that if I get caught and they see this note, they're going to think, they'll know I'm just a good guy.
Oh, never mind. He's a superhero. Let him go.
You're free to go, buddy.
Give him his cape back.
Godspeed. Good work.
I saw an article the other day about a guy who got busted with, I don't know how much child porn. It was quite a chunk of child porn. And he used an excuse that I have never fucking heard in all these years. And it was he just wanted to get the attention of the FBI so he could ask them if they're doing any hiring.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it worked, right?
Yep, he got their attention. But yeah, that was his excuse for downloading child porn. He wanted a job with the FBI.
Did he have his resume ready?
I don't know. It didn't say.
Well, there you go.
I just thought, well, shit, that's a new one, man.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
He found an in and fucked it up.
They show up. He's wearing a suit.
And dark glasses.
Yeah.
With his legs crossed.
Come on, y'all. I'm one of y'all. Come on, man.
There any actual, like, really cool bad guys out there at all? Have there actually turned out to be any, like, super, like, movie villain level bad guys out there?
B.B. Cooper, but then they never caught him, so.
But he wasn't really a bad guy. He's just a criminal. I mean, like, movie level, evil guy.
Yeah, what's the mafia guy a few years ago?
Yeah, I guess they could kind of count.
What was that guy's name?
Gotti?
Gotti, yeah, Gotti.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah, no, I could go with that. Maybe even Ramirez, maybe, but not really. He was just kind of a dumb guy. It just seems like
dumb and crazy.
Yeah. I mean, nothing really.
They beat his ass when they caught him, man.
Yeah, they did.
He was another one that the cops had to save his ass from the crowd.
Bundy was a pussy.
Manson.
I would actually put Manson as probably the only one that I'm thinking of right now as I'm just running my mouth. Manson would be the only one, even though he didn't really, get his hands dirty or anything, but just from a intelligence and manipulating type of guy, I guess he could be classified as a pretty good movie type villain.
Yeah, he died recently, didn't he?
Yeah, they're still. I think it finally got settled, but some of his remaining family members were fighting over his, for lack of a better word, his franchise, because he still makes money. They sell a lot of merchandise for him still. I don't think he makes any money off of it. I don't think, but it does make money. I mean, he's kind of a cultural icon at this point. And now with that damn Tarantino flick coming out here soon. And
he'll heat right back up, man.
Yes, he will. I just watched. I don't know if you watched this YouTube show called "What's in My Bag," but it's put out by, I think it's a San Diego record store, a very famous one over on that side, where they have famous musicians will come in and they'll shop, and then the show basically is them showing what they bought and why they bought it. But I just watched one recently where a dude bought one of the Manson's albums. I don't think it's a full album. It could be like an EP, but he actually did put out some music. I mean, before he got caught and all that.
He actually was got involved with one of the Beach Boys to do some recording.
Brian Wilson, I think.
I think you're right. And I've actually heard a good bit of his music. A buddy of mine had gotten his hands on some of it. It's about what you would expect it to be. But music was if you read up on Manson, the way he did his programming, music was one of the avenues that he used to program his quote unquote family that did his bidding.
Yeah, he did factor that in a lot with a lot of his message that he was delivering. I know Beatles played pretty heavily in it. Yeah, I'm curious to see what Tarantino's going to do with that whole thing. I know it's going to be kind of like a real but not real take on that time frame and that incident in Hollywood. So it should be interesting. Anyway, I don't know why I got on that. Oh, I was thinking about bad guys because this guy was such an idiot. It just seems like that's mostly what 99% of the people that we report on are pretty moronic. And a good chunk of them are suffering from mental illness or addicted to drugs. That seems to be the two big things, the common thread.
Stupid or doped up or crazy.
Yeah. And then you got these people, like this guy out of Utah. He was caught inside of a Rue 21 dressing room where he had followed a 12-year-old girl, and he got caught sticking his hand up under her dressing room stall with a phone trying to record her as she changed clothes. And the girl's mother and some employees chased the guy. What was this fucker's name?
It was Jorge Leon Alfaro, and that's a hyphenated last name again.
Yeah, they chased him down, I guess, somewhere in the parking lot, and she was able to start filming him and streaming it. And we'll play some of that video here real quick. It's pretty good.
Each day,
we'll
our
go
planet
through this,
awakens
we'll go
with
through this
signs
damn
of
ad
opportunity.
first.
But with opportunity comes risk, and to manage this risk,
you know what? I'm not listening to the ad. Damn, I wish I had the full video. I had the full one for it. Anyway, there's not much to it. Well, unless you just actually want to see it.
the world turns to CME Group. We help farmers lock in future
Hobo's
prices.
head is damn near
Banks
perfectly
manage
square,
interest rate
man.
changes.
Just about a
And
perfect square
airlines
if
hedge
you look
fuel
at it.
costs.
Yeah.
All so they can manage
I'm sitting
their
here playing an
risks
ad
and
for
move
free
forward.
for somebody,
It's
but
simply a matter
if you
of
notice
following the
nowadays,
signs.
even if
They
you move
all
your mouse
lead
over
here.
anything, you
CME
can't
Group.
skip the
How
damn
the
thing.
world
I can't
advances.
stop it. They're getting
That
really
man
good
was
with that.
arrested on this
Here we
property
go.
not too far away from that Route 21. Both the girl's mother and store employees saw what happened. Now this mom's story has been seen more than 5 million times on Facebook.
This right here is what a predator looks like. I caught this guy underneath my daughter's stall while she was changing in Route 21.
36-year-old Jorge Leon is now in jail. He faces charges of voyeurism of a child.
Not today. I'm gonna make sure your face gets out so that you're not in any more stalls looking under little girls dressing.
Police say witness statements and other evidence. Fox 13 News, Utah.
He looked like he was worn out from running. Oh, wow. Yep.
Oh boy, flabbergasted. I couldn't spell that if I
Yeah, for
tried.
80.
It's Flabber, gasted.
Yep, and what's so good is my mic was off and no one heard me say it. So that's good. But yeah, so you got gentlemen like this who risk everything to film kids in a populated dressing room. What would you do if you saw something like
Exciting.
that, Pagan?
Kicked the phone out of his hand.
He
I don't know. If I was under and it was filming me,
no. Why would they want to film you? No, like a kid.
I'm just saying. If I look down and saw a phone all of a sudden,
Oh, somebody was filming me under a stall. I'll do squats on top of it. I'll give them the full Monty. I will make them regret ever living to be doing that shit under my.
More than they bargained for.
Oh yeah, they'll get all up close and personal with my butthole on that phone. I'll even leave little Hershey kisses on the
I
screen.
was about to say you probably take a dump on it, right?
No, but I'm saying like if you're a kid. Well, even more so, you Jaded, you got girls. What would you do if you actually walked in and seen some dude doing that shit to your girls when they were that age?
It depends on whether or not there was a curb nearby.
Yeah, I mean, I truly give that woman a lot of credit that she didn't do anything physically to that guy, because I think she'd have gotten away with it. I truly don't think anybody would have charged her at all if she got a couple licks in.
A couple of licks, definitely not.
No, just a couple good smacks. I don't think anybody would have. There wouldn't have been a jury out there that would have convicted her. And I'd like to see him charge her with anything. The outrage on that. Yeah, Chicago, Illinois. 2 bright, well, actually 3 bright young teens have snuffed out their future after it looks like 2 teenage boys, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old boy, white knighted for some chick who said that her ex-boyfriend had raped her during their relationship. So in order to get back at this guy, and that's an alleged, that nothing was ever filed or anything or reported or anything like that. So the girl, 16-year-old Tina, I think her name was Tina Brewer, called her ex, 18-year-old Francisco Alvarado, to meet somewhere, but it was an ambush, and he was ambushed by her, and, no, I'm sorry, Francisco Alvarado was the other teen. The one that was murdered was, Luis Guerrero, but they called Luis to come out and meet her, and when he did, it was an ambush, and they attacked him and strangled him and stabbed him, threw him in a Jeep, took him out somewhere, out into a field, called another teen to come bring him some gasoline, which he fucking did, and they brought some gas and poured it over this dude and lit him on fire, and when he tried to jump up and run away, they ran him over with the Jeep and dragged him back to where they had him, and then set him on fire again and put a picnic bench on top of him. And
Jesus.
Right. Right. I mean, it was crazy. But anyway, they got caught pretty quickly. The very next day, police found him in a hotel room with a lot of evidence that they had done the deed. So they're all now in jail. There's their pictures right there. But yeah, so just teenagers playing stupid games. And I feel for them other 2 kids that fell into this. I mean, I'm not blaming just her, but she actually took part in stabbing this guy with her buddy. It could have been her boyfriend or new boyfriend, this Alvarado or this Francisco. They didn't say that, but it's kind of looking that way. They were staying in a motel room together, and it looked like they were packing up to leave. But that's been pretty much it so far on this one. I mean, I think this one's going to end up nice and quick.
I think what was interesting about this one was the fact that the people who found the body were firefighters who were doing training nearby and noticed smoke and went to investigate and found the smoldering body. So it's not like, it was there for a long time before anyone found it. They pretty much found it while it was still hot, it sounds like. Yeah,
also interesting was the fact that one of the main reasons why they got caught was the parents of Francisco actually rolled up to the scene and told the police there that there was unexplained blood in their Jeep, and that's what led them eventually to the teens. But I can only imagine they weren't turning their kid in. I think that when they saw this kid dead, and burning in a field or whatever, and then with the blood in the back of their Jeep and not knowing where their own kid was, they were probably expressing it out of concern, not like turning their kid in for anything. And that led to them all 3 of them getting busted. But, that's a hell of a thing.
White knighting?
Because they were.
I know.
Yeah, they were 100% white knighting for this chick, and I mean, Jesus Christ, you're gonna have to give me a little bit more proof than that before I want to end up pulling some shit like that.
Yeah, based on a fucked up story. Yeah.
Yeah.
They ruined their lives for this girl.
They definitely don't look like the brightest 2. particularly the one on the right, he looks like he's been hit in the forehead with something.
Well, the only thing that's going to save one of those teens is the one that brought the gas, because he brought the gas and then he left immediately after he brought the gas. So what he knew and what he saw, if he's smart, he'll deny. But he could probably get away with a good bit just if they can use him as a witness. So he may come out of it fairly unscathed, but we'll see how stupid he is. And they may not even need his testimony. Now I think about it. I mean, they found the
blood in the vehicle.
Yeah, and they got the dead kid's bloody backpack in the hotel room and the murder weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he may be fine.
Doesn't sound like they need anything.
No, they probably don't. Jaded.
Yeah.
This one's all you out of Munson, Pennsylvania.
And it's basically pretty self-explanatory. 3 dudes, Terry Wallace, Matthew Brubaker, and Mark Miesnikoff. And that name made me laugh so hard when I had to type it. Got busted for fucking dogs, horses, a cow, and a goat on their makeshift farm. They were turned in by a 16-year-old who lived on the property, though they're not saying who the 16-year-old belonged to or anything like that. And yeah, they fucked a bunch of animals, and they have 1,400 plus charges for animal cruelty on top of 1,400 plus counts of sexual intercourse with an animal, child endangerment, and corruption of minors. Damn. And they're gross. They look sweaty and dirty and really icky.
Yeah.
They do.
And someone had to watch all that video and keep count.
And you know, there was so many hours of video. Just,
Well, it's covered like a 5-year span, I think.
Several years. 5 to 8 years?
It said 4 to 5, I think. Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, what were these guys doing? What was that little pull toy where you'd pull it and it'd go, "It's a goat, man," and then, "Oh, it's a meh." Is that how they pick it? I mean, what the
Yeah,
hell?
they had that. That was the speaking spell, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, was that? I remember that thing. Yeah, it's probably what they had. They were probably just out there playing with that, and whatever it landed on is what they fucked.
I think they told that kid, "Look, you better catch something and get it in that V-shaped pen, or we're putting you in there." And it was just whatever he could catch first.
Yeah. We just had a story like this, didn't we, last week? Not like this, but not to this extreme. But another guy was got caught having sex on with a horse on video. The power guy.
It happened.
Yeah, that was a miniature pony, I think.
Hey, man. And let's see, where did this happen at? If it's Idaho, there's no law against bestiality there.
Munson, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I know they probably do. I was about to say.
Well, this is just an extreme case of 3 fucked up birds of a feather finding each other and flocking together. I mean, it's like a fucking Quentin Tarantino movie. These guys and what they had going on. Well,
I don't want to see any video of anything they did. I would love to have been a fly on the wall to where this discussion first came up that led to them finally all 3 admitting, yes, let's do this. I'm banking it was the guy on the left.
Well, it'd been a fly on a cow's ass.
Well, I don't want to be there. No, I just want to hear the discussion. I don't want to see one of these guys' dicks coming toward me.
Yeah, I think it's the guy on the left.
I think the guy on the left was the ringleader. He's the one that brought it up, probably to that schlubby-looking fuck on the right. And then they brought that dopey Eraserhead-looking dude in last. They pulled him in last.
Yeah.
And he was like, as long as I can do meth, I'm in.
Right.
And they were like, no problem.
Apparently, someone found all of their face profile.
Oh, no shit.
It's a picture of their... Oh, well, that one's gone now.
Yeah, it's down in the comments, Morbid.
Lots of pictures of their girlfriends and shit.
Really?
Yeah, well, they're animal girlfriends.
Yeah, ain't she pretty?
Yeah, someone was saying one of the, and I can't go to Facebook because I'm not allowed on there.
I'm looking right now.
someone was saying that the commonality is that they all had pictures of like them just with horses and animals and shit just hanging around.
Yeah, here's one right here. Mark Miesenkopf, bunch of fucking horse pictures.
So the Facebook page is still up. That's
holy
unusual.
shit. Yeah, Matt Brubaker, a bunch of picture of fucking horses. Yeah, it's like girlfriend pictures. And then Terry Wallace, very first thing is some wolves.
Oh Lord!
Oh,
the wolves got away.
Yeah,
he was
fuck a
getting
wolf.
brave, wasn't he?
You could really get in trouble with the wolves because that's a federal wildlife violation too, I bet.
But yeah, a lot of pictures of dog. Oh shit! I didn't mean to put the minors up there, people. I guess I need to quit clicking around in people's pictures. But yeah, the last guy, Terry Wallace, is a bunch of picture of dogs, so we know which way he's swinging.
So maybe they all had their own individual animal kink, and it's just that's how they picked. Well, I'm into dogs, so it's my turn to put a dog in the pen.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, the two of those guys were definitely like horses, and they definitely like putting never forget 9/11 pictures up.
Well, that's a distraction from all the animal fucking.
Yeah, it was misdirection.
The suspected ringleader on the left, I'm thinking he likes chickens.
Does he look like a chicken dude?
He must not have filmed it.
He looks like a chicken fucker.
Which one, the middle guy?
No, not the dork. The guy with the scruffy beard and the mustache.
I see that guy as like one of those Mr. Hands guys, the guy that's actually taking in the ass by a horse and being able to do it. No, the middle guy to me looks like somebody you'd see all hunched over, white and pale in the moon, sweaty, fucking a chicken.
Oh Jesus! Shut up! Put this shit in my head.
That's definitely the middle guy.
Writhing around in the chicken pen.
Yeah.
Oh, stop! I got a vivid imagination. This shit does not work in there.
Fucking feathers going everywhere.
So the dude on the right is definitely the goat fucker.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he looks like he might like to waddle with the pig too.
I wonder
if they had a pig.
At what point? Let's just say, well, we'll just use you as an example, Pagan. Let's just say it turns out that
I'm not sure if I want this.
Well, let's just say it turns out that we find out that you indeed were a horse fucker, and you got caught, and they ended up taking you to jail, and you get your mugshot posted just like these three gentlemen did.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you think that you personally, after getting caught, do you think that you would have this expression on these men's faces? Like, at what point in this, from you, the police knocking on your door, do you realize your entire life as you know it is completely over? Because that's what all three of these men look like. They know they're done. And I'm curious, is it the moment that you open the door and you see the cop sitting there, or is that still the moment where you start going through all the different excuses and ways you might be able to get out of it?
The latter. I think at first you got to say it's not what it looks like.
Yeah, you got to go through all the excuses that you can possibly come up with, because you never know. I mean, Hail Marys do work.
That's right. And if all that fails, you just say, well, she was a thoroughbred.
Yeah, I think I bet it's the police car. I want to bet it's the ride to the police station. That quiet, uncomfortable ride and you're cuffed and your knees are all bucked up against the back of the seat and they're not talking to you. That's where you do all your thinking, and you're just thinking the whole way, and then everything you can think of is going right to a dead end. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, you're pretty much fucked going to court, and you're going to have to pay the price and do some time.
Yeah, because the guy on the left and the right, the guy in the middle still looks kind of shocked, like he's a little surprised by it all.
He looks concerned still, which indicates that there's still some degree of hope in his brain. The other two guys are just resigned to, they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think they're less thinking about what's happened and more or less thinking about what can they use to kill themselves in their cell.
Yeah, because how do you go back home after that?
You can't. That's impossible.
Well, they take away your makeshift farm, and you have nowhere to go back to.
Well, you can't go go back to Munson, Pennsylvania, because something tells me it's not a huge ass fucking town, and everybody knows everybody, and you cannot go back home after that.
You have to go to Idaho or somewhere.
Right, blend right in. Missouri.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Idaho, here's one out of Rural Retreat, Virginia, where the woman decapitated her boyfriend, and when she was arrested, she was heard yelling, "Let me get my heads." Although I keep, every time I say that in my head, I don't say my, I say me.
I hear it as, "Let me get my hands. I got to get my hands." Just because it's Virginia.
Yeah, yeah. That was pretty good.
My people are originally from Virginia, so I'm just channeling.
There you
go. So yeah, this lady, 41-year-old Rowena Mills, is crazy, and I mean batshit crazy, and I mean legitimately crazy. I'm not joking. Like, yeah, she's crazy. This fucking bitch is certifiable. So Mercer County deputies were called to a house in Lorona, West Virginia, on April 1st by the folks that live there. They were annoyed and called the deputies, and they found this Mills lady bouncing around, bloody, wearing one glove, and with a pocket knife in her pants, as one media source reported, which I sort of laughed at that at first. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean, a pocket knife in her pants? But apparently I read another source later that said that she had a pocket knife clipped in her pocket the way people do, and I guess the reporter that wrote the first story was a stickler. It wasn't really in her pocket, so he said it was just in her pants. So anyhow, she's got a pocket knife. She's bloody. She's got one glove on, like a deranged, white, crazy female Michael Jackson. I don't know. She'd popped out of the woods near this house and had gone up to the house and told the people that lived there that she wanted a chainsaw and some gasoline. And they said no, and they offered to give her a ride somewhere else other than their house. And she said no to the ride, and she refused to leave. So they called the cops because, well, she's crazy and bloody and she won't leave. And so the deputies get there, and they later reported that her eyes were glazed, and she kept talking to an invisible person she called Daddy. Sky Daddy, Daddy, fuck me, Daddy. She wasn't specific, so who knows exactly who she was talking about. But she gave the cops a false name, blamed all the blood on having been thrown through a glass door, which is believable enough because she seems like the kind of annoying ass person that would get thrown through a glass door. I could see that being the case. She eventually got combative. Deputies got tired of her bullshit, cuffed her and stuffed her. So she's in the back of the car. She starts shouting, "You have to take me back and let me get my heads." And I guess they ignored it, but they eventually found out she wasn't bullshitting because later in the day, they got a call about a murder. They responded to the nearby residence of one Bo White, 29, and they found a decapitated male and, wonder of wonders, her missing bloody glove. So it turns out that the body was Bo White, and that White's father and this Mills lady were dating. So basically, Daddy's crazy girlfriend was the death of this guy. And he'd been trying to tell his dad what was coming. He had been trying to warn his dad. His dad didn't listen. She's hot in the sack. God damn it, Dad. I said, shut up, boy. She's hot in the sack. So anyhow, it ended the way it did. And they did find the head. It was at the edge of the woods where she had popped up at the neighbor's house to borrow gasoline. I guess they finally decided to go looking for the head after they found the headless body. So May 11th, Mills was found competent to stand trial. On May 18th, the initial charges of second-degree murder were upgraded to first-degree murder. And in mid-June, she was indicted on that charge by a Mercer County grand jury. Mills remains lodged in the Southern Regional Jail in scenic Beaver, West Virginia, under a $200,000 cash-only bond, which means she ain't going anywhere. And interestingly, the authorities cited robbery as a motive. Apparently, his wallet was bloody and empty at the murder scene, and she had bloody cash on her. They didn't say if it was her blood or his blood. Presumably, it was his blood. But so apparently, somehow or other, it was all over. They're saying robbery, but I think if you look at the lady's picture, it's plain that she's batshit crazy, and the robbery was just incidental to the fact that she snapped and killed him for whatever insane reason was going through her brain at the time.
I can't tell.
When I first read this story, I thought that was Bo White from the Wild, the Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia.
Oh, I wonder if it was.
But that the Bo White from that particular, what do you want to call it, a documentary?
Yeah, documentary.
Was the chick. So I wonder if this is a White that's related to those whites, but I looked at the picture of him, and I don't remember if I saw his dad or not, but he looked pretty normal, so I'm not sure if it's one of those whites. The guy with no head.
Well, that would certainly explain it, because those people were something else.
They were fucking hilarious. That was some funny ass shit.
Yeah, Pagan, if you ever get a chance, I don't know if you've seen that documentary, you've got to watch that one if you can find it.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you'd like it.
It's on YouTube.
It's the, what is it, the Wild Wonderful Whites of West Virginia?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, write that down, dude. You want to watch it.
Definitely worth watching.
All right. I'll check
I love the part where she's crushing up prescription pills and snorting them, in a hospital room in front of a camera crew with a newborn, and then she's upset and hysterical when they take the kid away from her. It's like, well, what did you think was going to happen when you were grinding up the pills and snorting them in front of the... of course, she turned her back on them, but I mean, still.
I'm actually jealous of people like that. Not necessarily because of their lifestyle, but their attitude. It's like they have their own set of laws, and they do what the fuck they want, and I always admire that.
Inbreeding.
It possibly, but I mean, I'm not necessarily have to admire those specific people, but I meant just the attitude in general. I mean, I imagine. Well, I don't know. Maybe they're so stupid they don't realize, but I would imagine their life is a hell of a lot more exciting than the 9-to-5er.
Oh, more exciting. I guarantee you that.
But I don't know if I don't know if they're intelligent enough to realize that it's more exciting. To them, they could be just as bored as I am on a daily basis. It looks like she got popped in the face too. I don't, or either that or that's just permanent eye baggage.
Yeah, she looked like she had a rough day.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely swollen.
Well, it's hard to cut off a guy's head with a fucking pocket knife.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched some of them jihadi ISIS people do it. Granted, it wasn't quick, but I was surprised to see it was definitely doable. You know what's not so doable that you would think it is because of all the movies you watch? A fucking chainsaw. That actually turns out to be a lot more difficult to use on somebody, I found out.
Oh, I bet it would bind up pretty easily.
It didn't bind up, but it does a little kicking. And of course, the person's just not sitting there with their neck sticking out either. They're going to move. So I've always said after watching, it was a video of some Mexican cartel people. One of them gets decapitated with a knife, and the other one gets decapitated with a chainsaw. And after watching it, before I watched it, I would have said, just do it with a chainsaw, get it over with. I don't want somebody sawing away at my fucking esophagus, I think most of those people that get decapitated choke to death on their own blood before they ever die from their head coming off. But after watching that video, I'll take the fucking knife. They both suck. Right. And the chainsaw is just horrific. Absolutely horrific to watch that shit. Or I should say after watching it. You ever watch videos to where you're like, wow, that's going to stick with me to the day I die. I wish I'd have never seen it. That was mine. That one. And some soldier that got a knife in his throat that was real big 10 years ago. And that one sticks in my head.
I'm still trying to get over Faces of Death from 35 years ago.
Well, here, this will help you out. It was all fake.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I can sleep at night now.
Yeah. I was very let down when I found that out.
Yeah.
But now when you go back and watch them, because you can see some of that shit on YouTube, now you're like, how did I even think this was fucking real? This is faker than some of the horror shit we were watching back in the day. You know which one we did watch that was not fake was that Traces of Death. That one was not fake at all.
Yeah.
But nowadays, those movies don't mean shit. You can see all this shit on YouTube and LiveLeak and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah, when we were back in the day when you could rent movies, I think we went wild with those Mondo type videos of the Traces of Death and Faces of Death. That's some crazy shit.
Yeah, I used to have dubs of the first 3 or 4 Faces of Death, definitely.
Yeah, those were pretty good back in the day. I can't watch death videos now, which is surprising. I think a lot of people think that I like gore and watching death videos and stuff, but I don't. I mean, I'm not squeamish or nothing. It's just that I think that the older you get and you start getting faced with like your own mortality, watching people die and stuff isn't like top of my list of things to watch anymore.
Certainly not as exciting as it used to be.
No. And it could be.
And if I wanted to see it, I could go look for it. I don't need people sending me that shit in my email and crap.
Oh, do you get people sending it to you?
For a time there,
Oh.
yeah. I've had to remove people from my Facebook for that reason. And then, well, I figured you might like this. And
Thanks a lot,
watching
jerky.
cats with high heels. Like, no, I don't particularly fucking like that. Thanks.
Well, it's like we also post a lot of child sex type stuff. Does that mean that I want you to send me child porn? You know, just because we're reporting on it doesn't mean I actually want to see all that shit. Now, that being said,
Right.
I am fascinated with a couple different things. I am fascinated to this day with amusement park accidents. I still watch those. And job place accidents, specifically industrial accidents. I will watch those for some reason. It's just I don't know. I think it's the contrast of the amusement park accident that I like, and then the industrial stuff is just from having worked around some of that machinery in my younger years, and you think about that shit when you're working around some of this stuff of just the horrible things that can happen. And then now at any given moment you can just get up and watch videos of it happening to people. I don't know, it's just fascinating.
Some of the industrial stuff is and I'm not talking about people getting killed, but some of the industrial accident stuff is actually hilarious. The amount of damage that you can inflict just by hitting the wrong thing with a forklift. There's one video I've seen a couple of times on forklift safety training where a guy catches he's turning in a forklift, and one of the forks catches on a piece of racking, and it tips the racking down. And the way the warehouse is set up, it's like a bunch of fucking dominoes, and he ends up collapsing the racking in the entire warehouse. And it's just some of that stuff's entertaining anyhow.
Yeah, I just watched one recently. It was some type of an industrial press, and I don't know what it did. But just for reference, you ever see those steam cleaner presses where they would put clothes in it and then they pull the thing down and steam or press whatever the hell's in it? It looked like that, but it wasn't for clothes. I think it was for stamping metal or flattening metal, and it was hydraulic based, which was very obvious after what happened to the guy that you can see in this video working on it. He's actually leaned inside of it, working on something in it, when it triggers and turns on and starts pressing down on him. And unlike a cartoon or a movie where it was flattening, it just slowly compresses him to where I guess he probably just can't breathe and he suffocates in it. But just watching him as he realizes what's happening and him trying to lift it off of him, but he can't because it's, an industrial press. But yeah, just watching stupid shit like that. But I don't know, like somebody just posted in chat though, you see some of that shit though, it just reminds me of shit to look out for. I swear to God, the other day I had a fucking a tree crew across the street using a wood chipper at my neighbor's house, and I was so tempted to set up my phone and just put it up on permanent record just in case. Just in fucking case, because we post enough wood chipper stories now. I remember back when they first happened, we would always be, holy shit, a wood chipper death, but now they're still kind of rare, but we posted so many of them. It's not as rare as I thought. I didn't realize that many people got pulled through them. Hellacious way to die.
Well, I tell you what, you don't make a mistake with them but once, probably.
We've had some people live, but they're usually lucky, like they get their arm pulled in. And they'll make it. I think the worst ones are the ones that, if anybody went in feet first, which we have had happen. Because they were like kicking something into it, and it snags on their clothing and pulls them in, and just takes half an inch of your toe of your shoe, and you're going in, and it's going to pull you right in pretty quick too. I always said, man, if you go in a wood chipper, you want to go in head first for sure. And then last story, Out of South Carolina. No, I'm sorry. This one is actually out of Idaho. This is the faith healing morons.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so this was out of Caldwell, Idaho. This was a lady, Sarah Kester. She's an alleged mother. Knew that her husband, Lester Kester, and yes, that's his real name, was molested their 4 daughters for 17 years. Lester Kester, the molester, you can't make this shit up. And he was a junior, too, so it probably wasn't the first generation of kid fuckery in the family. There's definitely some kind of sadism involved anyhow. I mean, you name your kid Lester Kester, that's just fucked up. That's worse than naming your boy Sue, you know? So she knew about it. She didn't stop him, didn't report the abuse. The only thing the bitch did was pray for the demon to leave him that was causing him to do these things to their daughters. That, and she gave him chores to do to keep him occupied. Here's a honey-do list. Quit fucking the kids. Mom of the year, this one. So the underage sex play would typically start when they were about 1 year old, and it would typically end about as they got near puberty. So you can draw your own psychological conclusions from the timing on that. I won't say anything on that. And what makes the situation worse, if it could be worse than kids being molested for 17 years and mom not doing anything about it, what makes it even worse is the reason why she allowed the abuse to continue and didn't report it. And essentially, God told her to keep her friggin' mouth shut.
Damn Jesus.
Apparently, yeah, no pun intended there. Apparently, the Kester clan was part of a small insular Pentecostal sect known as the Followers of Christ, and they're best known for refusing to get medical treatment for their kids when they get sick. They instead like to rely on faith healing to kill the kids, and that works great. They leave a trail of dead kids pretty much wherever they go. And apparently in Idaho, there's an exemption in the state child welfare laws specifically for faith healing. So when they faith heal these kids and the kids die, nothing's ever done about it. Well, there's another special little tenet of faith if you're part of this Followers of Christ church. Not only do you not call doctors, you don't call the cops or child protective services or counselors. All the problems are handled within the family or within the church. And since that's a religious tenet of their church, some folks, prosecutors, legislators, law enforcement, children's advocates, some folks are concerned that Sarah is going to use those religious exemptions in the state law to skate on not reporting the abuse. They say the exemption in state law is too broadly worded, and there's been apparently in the last few years a few failed attempts to correct it at the legislature level. And there's no question that the abuse happened. Kester confessed to it. Apparently what happened was one of his daughters decided that this code of silence stuff was bullshit and reported the abuse. And on June 21st, the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare alerted the Canyon County Sheriff's Office. And the same day it got reported to the Sheriff's Office, the second daughter confirmed the story. They both stated that they had confronted the mother about the abuse 3 years ago and nothing happened. Since then, a third daughter has confirmed the story as well. And when they talked to Kester, he copped to it. He admitted he fiddled with all 4 of them. But in a typically puritanical deflection of blame that shouldn't surprise anyone, he blamed it all on a bad guy or a demon that consumed him. So, you know, the devil made him do it. It wasn't him. It was the devil. So he's now under a $500,000 bond, 4 counts of lewd conduct with a minor under 16. She's under a $25,000 bond for a single felony count of injury to a child. 17 years of silence. She draws a single charge. I think they need to get busy and start stacking some charges on her. They need to get creative. 1 charge I don't think is enough. And that was the deal with Lester Kester, the molester, and his malevolent little brood. And if you look at the dude, if you look at his chin, his head is straight in the picture. You could draw a line underneath his chin and be perfectly straight. Draw a line from one pupil of his eye to the other. His head is sloped really weird. His eyes are way off.
Yeah, he's Two-Face. I used to, back in the day when we would post mugshots where you'd have people like this, where one side of their face looked almost totally different from the other. You remember this, Jaded? I used to cut the face in 2 and then clone it and then paste the 2 from one side together and then 2 from the other, and it would look like 2 completely different fucking people. They weren't even the same looking people. The only thing that would save this guy is his mustache. You might still, realize it's the same guy, but yeah, he's just got Two-Face.
His ears are even off.
Yeah, it's almost like I guess that would be his left side of his face is like coming off.
Sliding.
He's got some slippage.
It's like that old Bill Hicks joke. Why is it that people that don't believe in evolution look unevolved?
Yeah. Look at her, too, though. When you hear this story and then you see her picture and you're just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Get it. Yeah, that was our number one. I guess...
Mommy fucking dearest there.
This Followers of Christ, I've never heard of them. I guess they are pretty small.
They're apparently big in Ohio and Oregon and Idaho.
Yeah. We have lots of little dead babies and lots of little cemeteries around the Portland area.
Really? Because of these guys?
Oh yeah.
So is there an exemption for faith healing in Oregon law? Do you know?
I don't know. I do know that I've only heard of 3 cases charged in court.
Huh.
But there's a cemetery outside of Oregon City, Oregon, that dates back to the 1800s with lots of little dead faith healing babies.
Yeah, and these guys, if you look up the history of this group, they started originally in 1890. So they go back a good ways.
I wonder that's why there's laws. I mean, there had to have been a point in time where they had enough in numbers or power to actually get that law passed. Maybe not these guys specifically, but faith healing religions in general must have had a pretty good number at some point.
Right.
Well, first of all, you have to catch them because most of them don't go to public school. The kids don't go to public school. They're homeschooled. I mean, how often are you going to run into these kids on a normal, everyday, day-to-day basis to know that there's something going on?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Well, and that's the thing with these guys is, that they don't deal with outsiders and they don't talk to outsiders and they're not allowed to talk to outsiders about this stuff. If she had gone to, the authorities about what her husband was doing, she would have been kicked out of the church. Her family would have been kicked out of the church. They'd have all been shunned. I mean, that's the way these guys operate.
Yikes, shunning. That's awful. Jeez.
Hey, shunning works, man.
Apparently so.
Oh, it's very powerful. Very, very powerful, especially with certain religious groups. I know Jehovah's Witnesses, they practice that, and it's pretty effective.
Well, if you can take, broken people like this and convince them that, hey, we're the one thing in your fucked up, miserable life that's good, and you threaten them with taking away that one good thing, I could see how that would be powerful. I mean...
Right, and you don't even have to convince them of it. If they're raised in it, they don't know any different.
Right.
So it makes it even easier.
And there was actually, and I didn't talk about this in the write-up because it was sort of a secondary little story thread, and I didn't want to confuse things any more than it already was. But there was a young lady that was quoted. If you look at any of the linked articles, she had grown up in that church and had left the church when she was younger and knew these people. And she actually, I think, was related to them. And so she was able to sort of give an outsider's but insider's perspective. And she was not surprised that the abuse was going on. And she said she was not surprised that it was being kept secret. And because that had been her experience. She had apparently been sexually abused when she was a child. So some people get out.
They were basically Catholic.
Well, I guess in a different, and that's that's the one thing about that is you look at any of these religious groups, there's always kids getting taken advantage of. The Baptists. You see that they may go after one group. You see obviously all the stuff with the Catholic Church. People are still surprised by that somehow or other. But these cults, I mean, pretty much any religious denomination, at least in the U.S. that you look at, there's an example of someone taking advantage of kids.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just some seem to be more of a haven more than anything.
Right. Well, I tell you what I've always thought, and, I'm not a psychologist unless you count armchair psychologists, but it sort of has always made sense to me that a lot of these people would end up in the priesthood because, you grow up in the church, in the Catholic Church, and you're taught, that these things are sins, and you're taught that you're a sinner from the beginning, and you have these urges, and you are taught that they're wrong, And so, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to be a really good person. I'm going to try to fight against these urges. I'm going to be a really good person. What's the best thing I could do? Well, I could be a priest. That's the best thing that I could do. If I'm a priest, that's the best person you can be, and I'm going to be closer to the Lord and all this. And it just makes sense to me that a lot of these people would overcompensate and end up turning to, being a priest as a way of trying to get away from those urges.
You've got a much better outlook, because mine's a lot more cynical, to where I think just like...
Well, it's also opportunity, if that's what you're going to say.
I think that's absolutely what it is. I think that's why you see it so much in other professions, like even the stereotypical Boy Scout troop leader or whatnot, or coaches.
And pediatricians, actually,
yeah,
you don't see them get caught as often, but there's been a few cases around here local to me with pediatricians lately.
Yeah, I think they just go to where they can see a bigger opportunity, and the risk reward ratio is pretty good. Well, at least it was with the Catholic Church, and it still may be, but I don't know what the numbers are now, and I don't know if we'll ever know them. But it's not as much of a secret anymore like it used to be. But even when I was a kid, I remember the jokes. So this was like a known thing for decades. Because that would have been the 70s. There were jokes about Catholic priests,
right? Well, the thing about it was the church would protect it. So you're right. For a long time, it wasn't something that they really had to worry about, because the hierarchy above them was going to cover it up. So.
Yeah, and that's where you start getting into why is that? Is it because it was pedophiles protecting pedophiles, or were you actually just seeing a church trying to save face by sweeping things under the rug? And I actually think that the latter is actually more evil, so that's probably what they were doing.
And at times maybe a mix.
Or a mix, yeah, or a mix. But there's if a Catholic church run like a company, which I'm assuming it is, there are so many cogs in that machinery. I would be surprised if it was a ring of high level pedophiles protecting lower youngling pedophiles. But I could actually see, a high level. What would you call them?
Like the bishops.
No, yeah, but what would you call it? Like if you're trying to spin something in a good light or hide it, they got titles for people that do things like that.
Oh, the PR people.
PR people. I think that was more important to them, was to keep that whole thing under wraps.
Well, if you look at it, churches are huge moneymakers.
Oh yeah.
Catholic churches in particular are huge moneymakers. People donate shit tons of money because it's part of what you do to be part of the church. And certainly they don't want to. They're very sophisticated. You're right. It's PR, it's marketing, and they definitely want to keep that stuff under wraps. Which, when it finally does come out, makes it that much worse. But that's how people always do. No one can ever come forward and say, "Yeah, we had a priest doing this." They're going to shuffle them around, hide them somewhere.
Yeah, there's a video out there. I think I saw it on Reddit. I don't remember. I think it's an older video, but it just came back up again of an older. I think he's an Irish guy. He must be in his 80s or something, and laying into some lawmakers or something, some type of board, talking about this subject, and he's telling partially his story as a young boy and how he was raped repeatedly and beat by priests, and it's really heartbreaking seeing this 80-something-year-old man still basically tortured over what happened to him as a little boy. He carried that with him his entire life. It's pretty powerful if you can find it.
If you want to see some fucked up stuff, and it may have been part of this same thing, but the Catholic orphan schools.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day, were some of the exposés that have been done on that, people that have come forward, just absolutely horrendous, to the point that they were, burying, talk about little graveyards of kids. They had their own little graveyard that they didn't like to talk about.
I'm glad we're ending this podcast on a good note.
Always.
Well, that was our number one. I know there was a bunch of stories I wanted to get done today, but I had to go do some shooting today, so I didn't have time to actually get in and get some stuff written up. And I don't normally do it on Saturdays anyway, but I was going to get some stuff ready for Monday. But Maybe we'll actually see Jaded make another rare appearance. She's like a fucking unicorn.
Sure, it could happen.
Yeah. And maybe even Pagan, if he'll ever let me fix his fucking computer.
True that. At least I won't have to do it, on my phone with my fingers.
What would you do it with if you had it on your computer?
Well, I mean, it's different with a keyboard. You know what I mean. I'm not talking in complete sentences.
I'm just seeing Jamie with a keyboard
and
his computer, and he's just dropping his testicles on letters. Not using my fingers.
They call that the hunt and pecker method.
Yeah, the hunt and pecker method.
Yeah, so help me get that going, and I'll definitely get you a story or two in.
Yeah, all right. Well, don't know what you got planned tomorrow. I got very little planned, so let me know.
But Morbid has been a rough few weeks for me.
Yeah, I know.
Had a job, lost a job, got it back. Shit that.
You got to fight for those things, man.
I did. Got it back.
Actually, it almost like he did the opposite. You seen Office Space?
Right.
It was kind of that. It's kind of lost his job, then don't give a shit. Fuck you guys. I'm out of here. Whatever. And then that's almost seemed to be to get his job back. It wasn't like fighting for it. It's hard to explain, but it was almost like
it was the opposite of fighting for it.
It was almost like, yeah, fuck it, it's done. I don't give a shit. And then he ends up getting his job back. So I'm curious what would happen had he actually tried to actively fight for it back. Would they have not let him have it out of spite?
It sounds like he outsmarted the universe. Sometimes he can do that.
Well, thanks for everybody who tuned in. If you guys stay on just one more second, but thanks for everybody who tuned in again tonight. We'll be back. As far as I know, I'm going to keep the schedule at Saturday at 10:30 unless I'm told different. That sound good with you guys?
Sounds good.
I'm good.
All right. Well, everybody have a great rest of the weekend, and we will see you back next Saturday.
Bye.
Y'all take care.